Okay, this video is just going to be a quick review of the Unit 8 test. Actually, I'm just going to look at number 6, number 9, and number 12 of the review that we looked at in class. I just think those are going to give us maybe the most challenge. Let's start with this number 9 from that review. It says, which function is equivalent to f of x equals 2 times x minus 5 squared plus 3? Okay, this function is given in vertex form, okay, where you have the hk. This value right here, the opposite of this negative 5, which is 5, is the x value of the vertex. And this 3 is the y value of the vertex. All right, but we are actually going to need to work this out in order to put it in standard form, because these are all in standard form. So I want to show you just kind of briefly how to do that. So let me just write down the original. It's 2 times x minus 5 squared plus 3. Okay, first thing to remember is our rules, our PEMDAS, our rules of operation. What operations do we do first? Now, we always start with our exponents. Now, this exponent of 2 only applies to the x minus 5 in parentheses, and that's what we have to do first before we multiply by 2 or add 3, okay? So when we have an x minus 5, which is a binomial, and we square it, that means we multiply it times itself, okay? Well, if you remember doing that, that's when we multiply the first term times both terms in the other binomial, and then the second term in the first binomial times the other two in the second, okay? When we do that, okay, we're going to end up with x squared minus 10x plus 25, okay? Well, then we need to remember that we multiply all that by 2 and add 3. So I'm going to put this back into parentheses and multiply it times 2 and add 3. Well, this times 2 means we have to multiply every one of these terms in this parentheses, or this trinomial times this one term 2. Okay, so then we're going to end up with a 2x squared minus 20x and then plus 50. Well, then we have to remember that we still have to add this 3. So now I'm just going to write plus 3, okay? And then to complete this, these terms are separate. They're not like terms. They can't be combined. But the 50 and the 3, we just add that together, and we're going to get 53. So our final is going to be 2x squared minus 20x plus 53, okay? And then, of course, you will see that answer. Let's see, 2x minus 20 plus 53 is answer A. Now, something else to consider when you're asked if functions are equivalent, we know that one of these is the correct answer. And if it's equivalent, we could simply graph this function, and then we could graph these answers and see which one is the exact same graph, because that's what equivalent means, okay? But if you work that out as well, you're going to get, you're going to see that A is the answer for number 9. All right, let's take a quick look at this question. This is saying that this graph of the quadratic function is shown on this grid, and it says which one of these functions best represents this graph. Well, again, we know how to use our technology in class, our graphing calculator, and we could graph all 4 of these answers to see which one gives us this graph, okay? But to be a little bit helpful, when we're in this standard form, okay, the c right here, ax squared plus bx plus c, this is the y-intercept, okay? Well, you'll notice on here, this graph has a y-intercept of -2, so we're looking for a -2. So A could be our answer. B is definitely out, okay? So we could actually mark through B, okay? And then we could also mark through this -1 for D, so we could mark through D as well. Those are not possible, okay? At this point, then, you could consider graphing A and B and seeing which one is going to give you this answer. And when you do that, you're going to see that this graph is actually the graph of -x squared plus 6x minus 2. By the way, it does have to be -x squared. That first term has to be negative because it opens down, okay? But we can graph this, and then we would see that That is the correct answer. All right, let's take a look at this number 13. I think this is going to be a challenging one for us to consider. So this says, suppose a parabola, which is just a graph of a quadratic function, has this vertex, and it also passes through the point -7, -4. Write the equation of the parabola in the vertex form. All right, so in vertex form, remember this is the x and this is the y, but inside the parentheses, it's actually the opposite of this number, okay? So vertex form looks like this. Let me just remind you. So vertex form, it says that f of x or y equals, and then we have a times x minus h plus k, all right? And the hk is the vertex, but you'll see that it's minus inside here, so basically it means the opposite of h, and then this k is the vertex. So if we have a -8 and a 7, we're looking for, in parentheses, we're looking for x plus 8, because plus 8 is the opposite of -8, and then we're looking for a -7 on the end here, all right? Well, you will see that it's possible for it to be A, and it's possible for it to be B, or C, but again, B and D are out because they do not follow the vertex form correctly based on the vertex that was given us. So B is out and D is out, all right? So at this point, then we could just graph these two to see which one goes through or that also has this point, okay? You could do that differently. You could just graph them and you could trace it, or you could just use your Control T and look at the table to see where there's a -7, -4. And when you do graph, you will see that C is the correct answer. All right, that's a short review of a couple questions on the Unit 8 test.